Are you conscious of say the charts? I mean, like with your records. I mean, sometimes I get this feeling you're not even interested in the charts.
No, not really. I mean, obviously people who release our records are interested in the charts.
Right.
There's always a certain amount of pressure put on you to have a hit record, but I don't really think for a group like us it's that worrying, because I mean there's always going to be an audience for people who never get into the charts. I mean, there's very few groups that we like between the three of us that actually do ever get into the charts anyway. There's just a few exceptions. Well, the charts are a reflection of obviously of like a general taste, and I think the general taste is usually pretty vile and it's awful.
Mic check. 1, 2. Greetings. Welcome to the Blue Dreamer broadcast. I'm your host, Dr. I. Today I have a very, very special guest, Mr. Jeff Irwin from the band Willhaven. Perhaps you've heard of them. If you haven't, then you should have. What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm great.
Good.
I really appreciate you doing this with me. I'm kind of nervous actually talking to you.
It's all good, brother. It's all good.
Yeah, so I got a lot of questions for you, man.
Sure.
First of all, let me start here. You actually, like, I caught on to you guys way back in the day. I saw you guys play with Far at, I think it was called the Coos in Costa Mesa.
Oh, yeah.
I think they were on tin cans, and you guys, I think it was still Diablo at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing you guys in this house in a living room, basically with no furniture. And I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, you guys just, it was crazy. And I can picture it in my head, dude. I remember all of it. And it was just shit that I'd never really heard before, you know? And like, your style was so crazy to me. I was just like, what is this, you know? And then I was even looking at your setup. Like, you had a small rack. It was probably like a 6 or 8 space rack. And you had like Christmas lights in it and fucking, I was just like, what is this dude fucking with? Like, what's going on here, man? Like, you know, and it was just very intense, very heavy, you know, and I was still like, I was into Deftones, you know, I was into Far, and then I caught on to you guys and I was like, wow, okay, like this is crazy. Like, so that's where I'm coming from, you know, and I've stuck on ever since, you know. So where did music start for you? When did you get into music? Like, how young, you know, like how did it start for you?
Yeah, so I just started, you know, just when I was a kid listening to the radio. That's all there was, really.
For sure.
So I remember listening to the radio when I was a kid and just picking up songs here and there that I liked. And I've actually had a boombox that I'd got.
Nice.
And when a song would come on, I'd just press record real quick and just have it on cassette tape. And go back and listen to it. So I made my own little compilation and stuff.
For sure. Mixtapes, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it all came from initially. And then I had my 3 cousins. They were all boys. They're just a little bit older than I was.
Yeah.
They were kind of my idols growing up. So, you know,
For
they
sure.
got me into like rock. You know, they got me into Motley Crue, Iron Maiden, Ozzy, you know, Black Sabbath. So when I got introduced to that was like a whole new world for me.
Yeah.
You know,
So
metal and rock. And so that.
So you grew up with heavy music from the get, like.
I
go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I initially grew up with, I think my first record I really, really was into is like Off the Wall, Michael Jackson.
Of course. Yeah, nice.
That was one that I was like, oh man, like melodies, singing, I just was drawn to it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was like Kool and Gang was like one of my favorite bands when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it started out with like more R&B. And then once my cousin started handing me like they gave me like the first Motley Crue record, Too Fast for Love.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's just kind of just blossomed after that. So
crazy.
Yeah. it transitioned me, I guess.
Yeah. Did you get into hip hop too? Like early hip hop, like 80s, 70s, 80s hip hop? Like, you know?
I think, in sixth grade, I met one of my best friends, Mike, who actually ended up playing bass in Millhaven.
Okay.
He was really into hip hop. So he got me into like, I was into LL Cool J, you know, the first, Rock the Bells, and then Run DMC, of course, you know, was huge influence. And then Beastie Boys. Yeah. So early hip hop for sure, you know? And then we really got into gangster rap, like, you know, NWA, Ice-T, Too Short, you know, and then, and then I've always been a big hip hop fan ever since.
And how old were you at that time?
Sixth grade. So I was 12,
okay,
13,
cool.
something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not trying to age you or anything, but I'm just saying like, it's interesting, you know, because at that same time, my brother was playing that stuff and he's 8 years older than me. So I was probably like 7 or 8, you know, like, but he would get me in his little Nissan hard body with 212s in the back, and you know he had it dropped with like low pros. He'd be like, "Come on, dude, like I'll take you to school," bumping NWA, you know. I was just like, "Okay, dude," like, so it influenced me too, you know, like that's why when I hear Will Haven, I can tell. Like I was a little surprised that some of the songs that you picked, one of the songs in particular, you already mentioned Kool the Gang. And I was like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that. But at the same time, it makes sense because it makes sense to me. I grew up with the same R&B, you know, doo-wop, James Brown, all of that. And it still sticks. It's still in me, you know, even when I'm playing rock music and heavy music, you know, it's all, I keep saying, like, I keep repeating myself, but I'm like, it's all heavy to me. You know, so it makes sense. It makes total sense, all of it.
And you could tell the bands that were influenced or have a lot of hip hop influence. You know, like you know, Deftones and Korn and like the Limp Bizkit. You can hear the groove. You can hear the beats. You know, So I think that's where new metal really came from, that bridge of hip hop. But the drummers, you could tell the drummers were like really had groove oriented and like listen to hip hop and stuff like that.
Yeah. But even in like reggae and like, you know, the groove is I call it the groove with like a capital G. Like it's undeniable. No one can, that's when you can tell it's like, oh shit. Like, and that's why I like to ask like the 3 songs and what influenced, because I feel the same way, you know, and I like to hear like the eclectic choices, you know, and it's like, dig. Like I want to hear the dig. Like if you're a DJ, you know, like an old school DJ digging through vinyl, like what are those picks that just hit you like boom, no matter the style, you know, it all makes sense in the end, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So Motley Crue and all that was the heavy first, and then what, like into junior high and high school, what started to come out of that? Like what heaviness?
Yeah, so the Motley Crue phase was kind of my, you know, 6th, 7th grade
initiation, like
yeah, and then you know, then you get into Black Sabbath and you know, Van Halen. I mean, the whole gamut, right? And then I got into Slayer. Of course, Slayer was like kind of my first like real thrash metal band that I was into.
Okay.
And then Sepultura, and then you just kind of grew from there. But hip hop, I mean, gangster rap was really the big thing through my high school. Like I said, NWA, Ice-T, you know, Colors was big then. So, and then EPMD,
Eric B. and Rakim and all that.
Eric B. Rakim, like all that stuff. That was like pretty much most of my high school. But then my junior year, I started getting into Jane's Addiction.
Okay.
The Cure, you know. It kind of took a little left again. So by then it was like I had a huge array of like music love, you know, like from hip hop to thrash metal to grunge to everything, R&B. It was kind of the wide spectrum, I guess.
Yeah, no, and I respect that a lot. And it's funny that you say that. I'm assuming that you and my brother are probably about the same age, and but I got all the secondhand from him, you know. And then once I was old enough, he started taking me to shows. Like he took me to I think it was like the 2nd or 3rd Lollapalooza with Smashing Pumpkins and P-Funk and Beastie Boys and Green Day, and so I was lucky enough for him to expose me to all these things, you know? And it's like, so when you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, I grew up with all that too, even though I'm younger, a younger cat, but he was just dumping it on me. I was like, all right, cool. Like, cause I didn't get into heavy music until I got into Nirvana, like heavy. And then I started playing the band with one of my good friends that I'm still, we mess around with music and stuff. But then he started showing me, like, I didn't really get into Slayer, which is blasphemy. I'm sorry to anyone. But he would show me like Machine Head, and like he even tried to show me Clutch early on, and I didn't really get into Clutch. But then like we got into Korn, like off the first, album. And then I got into Deftones and all that, and you guys. So it's like, my heavy music didn't start until later on, until like junior high school, The first heavy album I ever heard was the Black Album from Metallica, because some tomboy skater girl passed it to me. She's like, dude, listen to this. I was like, all right. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. Like, it's groovy too, it hits hard. Like, I like that. And that was it, and after that, I got into that. So when did you start playing guitar, like just strictly guitar?
I grew up playing drums. So my dad had bought me a drum set when I was 12 years old, and because I just wanted to be a drummer. My dad played guitar.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, let me play drums and we can start jamming together.
Yeah.
So my dad bought me a drum set, and I played all the way through high school. When I graduated high school, I'd become friends with the Far guys. Me and Sean Lopez were best friends.
Nice.
So I had a drum set, and me and him became roommates. We moved in together, and he played guitar, of course, in Far. So me and him started jamming together. I played drums, he played guitar, and then we started a band called Sock. And actually, our first single came out today. Actually,
I saw that. Hell yeah, that's sick.
So we're releasing that old demo that we recorded back in '95, I think.
That's so dope.
So that was my first like initiation to like playing in a real band. And then when Sock was kind of going, Far got signed to the major label deal. So Sean kind of left Sock, and that's when I had sold my drum set and bought a guitar, and that's when I started Willhaven. So I didn't start playing guitar until I was 20. I think Willhaven started when I was like 22. So that's when I started playing guitar. Yeah.
Nice. And what was the first guitar you bought?
It was actually ESP.
Yeah, that's what I knew.
Sean,
I thought so.
Yeah, Sean had been endorsed by him, and so was Stefan from Deftones, and those are my boys. So I asked Sean if he could get me an ESP. I bought it, but Sean helped me get it. So that was my first guitar.
It was a black one, right?
It was green, actually. It was like a dark
green.
Yeah, dark green one. Yeah.
Okay. Did it have that reverse headstock up or down? Remember?
It was up.
Okay,
it was up
because that was what I saw you with. That was when I saw you. I know. Yeah. And what was the Was it humbucker? Just two humbuckers, or do you remember?
I took the front one out, and then I put a tremolo. Well, I guess they don't make them anymore. It was like a trimbucker distortion that Seymour Duncan had. Yeah,
because Steph had that humbucker single coil setup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was just like, why? Like when I see that SG that has 3 humbuckers, I'm like, why do you do that? Like that didn't make any. It's like too much humbucker. Like you only need 2 humbuckers, or like.
Yeah, I rip them all out, and I just have the one.
There you go.
Because I usually sometimes when we play, I'll hit knobs and I'll switch it and I'll turn it off, and it just like sounds like crap. So I just get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. So, you just need one and a volume, and that's
you need a volume knob. That's it.
Yeah, that's it, bro. Just one and done, dude. One and done.
One volume knob.
You're not gonna do jazz solos on the neck, or
no,
anything, what I'm
not at
all. Hell yeah! All right, and then so with guitars, so yes, I remember I was like, okay, I had an ESP, and now you're playing SGs, right?
Yeah, mostly SGs. I actually got my ESPs, one of them fixed, so I'm going to go back down to LA and see those guys, and then hopefully maybe get a couple more ESPs. But SG has been my main staple, just because for us touring, it's my guitars take a beating.
Stability, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and those SGs can get their butts kicked, and I can glue them back together. My ESP, I would break my heart if I broke them. So
yeah, for sure.
my SGs are kind of my workhorses for touring, but if to record stuff, I'd rather record the ESPs for sure. What
are the SGs? What year are they? New, like, or what?
They're just the cheap SG specials. I don't know the years on them, but they sound killer. I throw my little pickup in there, and they sound killer. It takes a little time to get to get that DNA in there, but once they do, it sounds killer.
Yeah, you got to work it in, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What pickup do you put in there?
That's the same ones, the same. So when so when I had that one, I got a few more guitars, and I called Seymour Duncan, and I was like, hey, I use these. Do you have any more? And they gave me like 5 or 6 of them free.
Yeah.
So I just rotate them now. I still keep rotating all my guitars. So
do you change any of the electronics? Do you change any of the pots or anything like that? No, just straight up. Just
straight up. Yeah.
And you haven't tried to get any custom pickups or anything? Any like nothing crazy? You're just like fuck it. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
whatever works.
I'm not that kind of artist.
Technical.
Like I had endorsement with ESP, and I just never even like try to get. Yeah. They give me guitars every once in a while, but I would never call them and beg or anything. Like I'm just not the type of guy where it's like I get stuff, but I'm horrible at taking advantage of it because I just feel bad.
No, that's good. No, I like that too. You're humble. You know, it's like I like the idea of just rocking with what you have. You know what I mean? Make the most of what you have available already, and just I think most artists that I really appreciate and like do that. You know, like.
Yeah, and I kick myself sometimes. We've had a sponsorship with Converse and Vans, and like I never even called them to get anything.
Some shoes. I need some shoes.
Yeah, I never got anything. It's like we were cool with them, but I just never was that type personally. Yeah, I need like 5 pairs of shoes. I just never did it. You know, they would send me a couple things. I'm like, oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Awesome.
Pretty much. Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. Thank you.
not that type of guy. Yeah.
So okay. So right off the bat, did you rock digital gear? Did you rock rack gear? Because that's how I saw you when I first saw you. You were it was an ADA, right? The ADA, what is it, MP1 or something like that?
Yeah, initially my first setup when I bought my ESP, the first thing I bought was a 412 cab, which I still have today, actually, Marshall.
Okay.
1960 cab.
Nice.
And then I had bought a 1960A Marshall head, 100-watt head. And then I went and jammed with Chris Robine from Far. Yeah. When I first got it, just to try it out, and I couldn't hear myself. He played so much louder than I did.
So He's so loud, dude. He
plays so hard.
He plays so hard.
This head isn't going to work. So Sean Lopez played the Mesa Boogie strategy with an ADA. Yeah. And so I just like, all right, I need to copy Sean. If he can hear himself over Chris, then that's what I need, you know. So I saved my money, and I kind of got the similar setup to what Sean had, an ADA and a Mesa Boogie power amp. Yeah. And that was kind of like our staple. That was me and him, and actually Stefan played that too, but he played a Marshall power amp. But
that Marshall is like a valve. No. It's
60
channel. Yeah.
So that was his rig, but we all played the ADA,
and it's kind
funny, of a Sacto thing.
Yeah, and it's funny because that is the tonality. Like if people don't know, like when you've seen it and you've heard it, you're like, oh shit, they're all fucking with the same shit. And there were some artists here in San Diego. I remember back in I think it was like a funk guitarist or something. Like he had one too. I was like, I know what that is. Like, you know what I mean? Like the blue buttons with the red LED. Like, and I know, you know what I mean? So. It just all made sense. I was like, okay. And so on that, so, and then one of my good friends in high school or just out of high school, he got one, you know, and this was like late 90s. It was probably like more in the early 2000s. And because he loved Sean, you know, he was a big like emulator of Sean's style. And we kind of started a band that sounded like Deftones and Far. And because, you know, we loved all you guys. And then like he would do the patches that were like quiet with the, you know, with the chorus or flange or whatever it was to the loud, like, you know, but you guys started that. How did that come about? How did you find, you know, I mean, how did you create those patches that was just like the low, clean, almost, you know, just barely dirty, and then just boom, like hit, you know, the next, and the switch was always so quick, you know what I mean? Like, because I played the ADA, I played it, and it's just like almost instantaneous, the switching between patches. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the ADA was cool. I actually added some pedals to the clean stuff on ADA because ADA clean, or at least some of their effects weren't that great. Yeah. But the distortion was amazing.
Exactly.
That's why we loved it.
Right.
But I give credit to Sean and Stefan for that. You know, like before I started playing guitar, they were doing like the whole clean distortion thing and like, You know, I think they had taken some ideas from Dr. No and Bad Brains.
Yes,
you know, like you do like the reggae stuff and they do the punk stuff.
Yep.
So I think that was kind of influenced from them. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of stole my initial idea from those two.
Yeah.
You know, having a clean channel, but a little bit dirtier. But having that dynamics was really
dynamic.
key.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think you did it harder than any of them did it. Well, you and Sean, I would say I would take head to head and listen. I would have to listen and be like, but even seeing you guys live, I think you would just hit it harder. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. But I love both your bands just as much, you know. So it's
we were a little more aggressive than Sean, but
a lot.
But Sean was very good at doing it musically, though, for sure.
Yeah, but even I love the degree of like Deftones, Far, and Willhaven is a perfect like triad of dynamic. You know, the possibilities of dynamics in whatever style. So that's crazy. That's kind of what you all took out of growing up together and hanging out and playing, and you know, I love that. That's sick, dude. That's so dope.
Yeah. I think we're also fans. I mean, I'm a huge Deftones fan. I'm a huge Far fan. So for me, like, I think the thing is that we all were fans of each other, but we didn't want to really copy each other. I mean, we kind of sounded similar in a lot of ways, but we weren't trying to blatantly like, all right, we got to start to sound dance like Deftones, or we got to like sound like Jonah, or it's like it wasn't that at all. You know, it's like we want to sound similar, but we want to have our own style too.
Yeah, you all kind of leaned on each other, you know? Like
totally.
Yeah, that's sick, dude. I love that. That's so awesome. So how do you write Willhaven songs? What's the writing process?
Usually it starts with a
riff.
Either way, I'll write a riff, or I'll write some kind of ambient part, and I'll try to fill the riff with it. So it just comes either way. Well, it's me just kind of screwing around in my little studio at my house, and then I'll come up with something like, hey, this could be a cool song, or this could turn into something, and then I kind of build that idea, then I'll take it to practice, show the guys, and then we'll just try to build it from there, and then maybe like a month later it becomes an actual song. So it's a slow process, but it starts with me starting the kindling, I guess.
Have you always been the main spearhead of that process?
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I'm the only one that's like kind of has songwriting history in the band.
Sure.
You know, those guys didn't really have any songwriting experience before Willhaven. So, and I did a little bit before, I always kind of just took the reins and just writing the song basically.
I think playing drums too adds a lot to, you know, I mean, when you're switching from drums to guitar, it's like you already are familiar with rhythm. And then you can kind of like articulate a little more detail with a guitar than you can. Well, I don't even know if that's true, but you know, you can add a little more swagger to the guitar knowing rhythm, you know, like
absolutely. Like I think playing drums made me a guitar player better than any lesson, really.
Yeah.
When I write a song, I can actually hear the drums playing in my head while I'm writing it.
Exactly.
So I'm not like thinking, oh, what's the drummer gonna do over this? Like I already have a rhythm and a structure and how the beat's gonna go. And it's nice.
Yeah. I mean, because to me, like every musician wants to be a drummer, you know, and that's a general statement, but I wanted to play drums. Like, you know what I mean? Like I never did. I just got into guitar first, but the way that I play now is so rhythmic that, you know, I can make drums, like, especially like sampling and, you know, like electronically. And I try, but my shit's very basic, but I can't get behind a kit and do anything spectacular. It's just enough. I just need a 4 to the floor. That's it. And I'm good. And, you know, like that's all I need. I can write some guitar shit on anything, but drums is like,
What's crazy too is like even Stefan, people don't know he can play drums really good.
Nice.
And I think, and even Sean, I think can play a little bit. So all my friends that are like rhythmic guitar players can keep a beat on a drum set, no problem.
Right. You know, and one of my friends always tells me, like, if you can say it, if you can speak the beat with your mouth, then you're already more than halfway there, you know, like,
yeah, totally.
So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm good. I don't need to sit behind a kid and show off, right? Cause I don't, but then that's why I like what I like, because it's very, I don't want to say it's simple, but it's simple, you know, basic. Like that's just what I like. I like simple, heavy, get to the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like
sure.
some complex stuff as well, but I think even you talking about, and I want to ask you about this too, but like the ambient stuff that you do, you know, where does that come from? You know, like how do you come up with those tones and just, do you play piano or you just?
No, I would say a majority that I have a love for ambient music, you know, I'm a huge Massive Attack fan,
Sure.
but I think that probably the main influence came from Pink Floyd.
Nice.
You know, I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan. So the dynamics of like, you know, like the song Us and Them, it's like, you know, really quiet picking and all of a sudden a huge explosive chorus.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they have the keyboards in there and it's like a lot of ambience to it, but it's still really big and beautiful. So I think that's where it came from. A little bit of David Navarro and Jane's Addiction. You know, He's got that, you know, with, you know, like 3 Days where it opens up with this really cool guitar part and like even some of the old Bad Brain stuff, some of the reggae stuff that he plays. So I think it's just a combination of like just all the stuff I love that's not heavy.
Yeah.
You know, that I just kind of incorporate into Will Haven, like The Cure, Radiohead, stuff like that. I'm a big Radiohead fan. So it's just all my influences kind of just morphing into one. And when it comes to sound, it's me just kind of playing with different pedals and seeing which one I like. I always like kind of that more organy sound out of the guitar pedal than just like regular picking or like a delay. Like I wanted something that was had some more bottom into it and kind of filled in the gap more so than just the strummy guitar part.
What's your favorite effect out of all the effects? Most favorite?
I mean, forever I used the Boss flanger and the Boss delay together.
Okay.
That was kind of like, I guess, my signature sound for a long time.
Yep. And the ADA had I think it was a chorus, but you can make it sound like a flanger, right? Like it's not.
A little bit. I think more so because there was a leveler in the back or a volume, and I always had that thing all the way up and I had my was run through my pedals. So I think most came through the pedals, but AD had a lot of good clean stuff, not a lot of like cool effect stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I got an Eventide space pedal and that thing fucking rules too.
Yeah.
So
I'm a phaser boy. I love phaser. Like I love.
Yeah, phasers are cool. I just started playing with the Helix for the last year, about 2 years. I've had the Helix now, and
nice.
I'm still playing around with that thing and finding cool stuff. But that thing, you can get some really cool stuff out of that one too. So,
what are you using right now, live rig?
So live rig, I was using my 88 for a long time, and then we went on tour and like it got
still rocking the 88.
I was, but then like I think it was like maybe 4 years ago, right before COVID, I'd taken it and like the airplane ride just killed it. So I had called Stefan. And asked, because I know Stefan's always changing his gear up. Hey, what are you using now? And he's like, I just got the Helix. You should try it. So
crazy.
I bought the Helix, and I love it for the fact that I can put it in a backpack and take it with me anywhere.
Yeah.
And I can pretty much mod all my amps into it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not so much about having one. It's more about taking it with me everywhere, not having to worry about it.
Convenience.
Because we travel a lot as far as like we do like one-off shows and like for weekend shows, and there's no way I could take my rig. So right now I'm using the Helix, but I am still running a power amp through it. So I'm using the Matrix power amps.
How many watts? How many watts?
I think it's 800.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
And so that powers both my cabs still on stage. So we're not running in-ears or anything.
Yeah.
So digital for my kind of pedal and amp sound, but I'm still running a power amp. So you get kind of best of both worlds a little bit.
For sure.
So that's pretty much my main rig now.
Nice. Yeah, I bought the Fractal FX8 at one point. And I was like, it was so funny. One of my friend Paul was like, dude, you got that? He's like, good fucking luck. I was like, what? I can adjust anything I want. And then once I got into it, I was like, fuck, this is too much, dude. Like, I don't have time for this.
I thought of for a long time getting the Axe effects, but then everybody's like, oh my God, it's so hard.
It sounds great, but you could literally adjust every single
little thing.
Like an eighth of a parameter, you know? It is like, oh, okay, this is too much, dude. Like it really was. I was just like, no, I'm way too simple for this. This is the Helix can be tough, but it's not as complicated as Axe effects. You can dumb it down a little bit, but it's tedious. But yeah, like Sean just bought the Axe effects and he loves it. So I don't know. I might try it eventually, but I just don't want to carry a bunch of stuff around when we travel. no. And I've heard so many good things about the Helix. It's more, I would say, like plug and play friendly than, you know, really
Totally.
and that's shit. I might get one now, you know, just to have. But how do you use? So when you're recording, what do you use any computer like mod, like you know, like the apps, like online, not online, but you know what I'm saying, like
plugins.
Yeah, the plugins. Yeah.
No, we run live. So last record on 7, I started with an 88 power amp. So just running my old rig, and then I think I ran like a old like Bean Pod for one track.
Nice.
And just to get a little beef to it.
Yeah.
And then I actually did right in the middle of all that. That's when I bought my Helix. So I ran a little just track off the Helix. So it's like a hodgepodge of all different kind of tones and stuff. Sure. So I don't usually plugins. I just kind of just bring my tone in to the studio and record it. So whether it's be on the Helix or through my ADA.
Yeah.
So always through my cab though. I never plug in back. So
still punk rock, still that old school stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of Will Haven. Will Haven's like more of a punk rock.
For sure.
Like hardcore band than we are like you know, technical or anything.
Yeah. So my main, like a big question I have, because this is a technique you taught me, and this is why I say like you influenced me so much. You know, I loved like when I heard, so it's so funny. I just listened to the self-titled again a couple days ago, and I was like, oh shit. Like for some reason I was like Diablo was the first one, but then I like saw on, you know, I use Apple Music, and like I saw the self-title. I was like, wait, I don't remember this album. And then I was listening to it, I was like, oh fuck, okay, this was the first shit I heard, you know what I mean? And then I was like, oh my God, it's so heavy. Grady's just fucking blowing it out. And I was like, oh, this is sick. And not, you know, I'm not disrespecting Diablo, but that's kind of the one that everybody goes to, is like, oh, this is, and I was like, no, dude, the self-title is the shit, you know, like, and I have my favorites, and that's everybody picks and chooses, you know. But then I remember when WHVN came out, and I bought it the day it came out. There was a record store here called Off the Record, and I went, and that shit, just from that initial, just that little scratchy, and then great. Oh, dude, I was like, what the fuck? These guys are just hitting it. Like, I loved it, you know?
That's right.
Yeah, respect, much respect. And so I was just like, okay. And I could hear the evolution, you know? That's one thing that I catch from bands that I really love and pay attention to, is the evolution of just sound and tonality and production, whatever the fuck, you know, all of it. And then once I got into Carpe Diem, Miguel, dude, that song, that one note, just dun-dun-dun, dun-dun, I was like, fuck, like you drilled it in for me. Like that was like, and I still do that shit now, dude. I still do that shit, and I love it. It was just like, it's one note. You know what I mean? Like that could be the hardest shit, and sometimes I'll throw an octave over it, you know, and it just makes it twice as heavy. And it's just like, dude, that shit blew my mind. So how did you come up with that?
It's funny, but I think a lot of our records, now that you actually made me think about it, was I think wrote for performing it live or playing it in front of people, because when we released El Diablo, we didn't know what was going to happen with it, you know. Right. And then Deftones took us out for like 4 months on the road across the world. So when we came home from El Diablo, you know, running with the Deftones, we're like, okay, well, these songs work live, but we need something else to like add to our set list, or, you know, we need to do something a little different, so we're not sounding like the same record for an hour, you know? So that's where WHVN came in, like trying to write a little more riffy kind of stuff, a little more out of the box, a little different than El Diablo, so we can change our live setup a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we did that. We did a tour with Fear Factory on that run, and like some other stuff. And then we did a tour with Slipknot on the WHVN tour. And then we came up from that, we're like, okay, we kind of need to add something even more heavier, because like playing with Slipknot, we're like, holy shit, and those kids aren't going to like us, you know. coming home from that tour, I was like, okay, we need to write something even more riffs, you know, something a little more. So that's when Carpe Diem came from. So a lot of our records came from just being on the road and like, you know, learning about what fans want to hear and what moves the crowd and like how to keep the momentum going throughout the set list. And so I don't think if we had never toured an El Diablo, I don't know what we would have wrote on the next record. I have no idea, you know, but being on the road for so long and experiencing things and learning about crowds and playing live, I think that's what kind of shaped our next two records after El Diablo.
Dude, I'm telling you, that riff haunts me like so much, and I love it like, in the best way possible. I'm gonna fucking play it too, just so people can hear what I'm talking about. But it's great, you know. I love things like that. The things that stick out of anybody that I pay attention to, and especially when I say like I'm influenced by you, I mean that shit because.
That's awesome.
It's something I gravitated towards, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put this in my shit, you know. And you know, I think it was Picasso that said nobody is original. Everybody bites from everybody else. You know what I mean? And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, I don't think so. You just got to make it your own. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, and that makes a lot of sense. So what about your tunings? Do you change tunings, or have you just tuned the same the whole time?
Well, this is where I kind of screwed up in my career. So every record's been a little different. I started out in standard E with drop D, so drop D tuning.
Sure.
And that was El Diablo, and then I did drop B, or C sharp, drop B for I've Seen My Fate and Foreign Film on El Diablo.
Yeah.
And then I kept the drop B tuning in WHVN, and then Carpe Diem as well as drop B.
Yeah.
And then we had broken up, and I had started some projects with friends, and then so I was starting to learn about different tunings.
Yeah.
And then Hierophant, I don't remember what. I think I might have been dropped just standard B.
Yeah.
And then Vordaer, I just got crazy and dropped it to F sharp.
Oh shit. Okay.
So Vordaer was F sharp, and then Morte was A, and then our new one's a G sharp. And I don't think I really intended to have different tunings. I just tuned them to a different way, and then I kind of liked what I had found and started working with that. Yeah. So, but now it sucks. It's like going on tour. It's like I have to take like 4 guitars. I'm like, I can't. Like we're going to the East Coast in a couple weeks, and we're playing songs from every record, and I'm like, I can't bring all these guitars. I don't know what to do.
You don't
want to have to cut some songs out of the set, dude.
You don't want to get one of those fucking Digitech drop tuners, dude, that just fucking click it and go, dude.
That might be the next.
I heard they're real clean, dude. A lot of people use them. They're real fucking clean.
That might be the next step, but yeah, I'm like, I don't know what to do, man. So it's like, I shouldn't have done that. Should have just kept it. Like,
oh well. Yeah, we're not taking requests on this run, okay?
yeah, totally. I'm like, we're not playing anything from El Diablo on this whole tour.
Yeah, sorry, peeps.
Yeah, it sucks. I now think about it, but I mean, at the time, I was like, I was inspired, you know, like to try something different. So
yeah. So the road really evolved the albums then, you know. Was there anything else contributing to that, like anything, you know, like I asked you for your 3 songs, anything you were listening to at the times too that was just because on Muerte you do that song with Mike from Yob, right? And like did that, because I'm not you know really into that band, but I know about them, I'm aware of them, and then when I heard the song I was like, oh shit, that makes sense. Because it's just slow, you know, like it just draws out. So were you influenced by that at that time? Like, what else?
Yeah, I mean, Mike's always been a good friend of ours. I think we met him back in 2005, I think. Okay. We did some show. My other band had done some shows with him, and he's just been a really good friend of mine for a while. And then, so when I had written that song, I had that part written, and I was like, God, it'd be cool to have somebody sing over this. I was like, wait a minute, Mike would sound perfect over this. Yeah. So I called Mike. I was like, "Hey, I got this song. It's kind of Yob-ish. Like, I'd love you to sing on it." And he jumped on it right away. So,
fuck yeah.
That was just him being a buddy. But I love Yob too. I think there's moments where I just like I want to listen to him, you know, because I mean they're a band. If you're in that mood, they're the perfect band. But I don't know. I think basically the majority of Will Haven stuff has just been from like coming off the road and trying to add something new to our repertoire.
Yeah.
So when we do go back out, we have a whole catalog of songs we can choose from that are a little bit different than the rest of them. And
Yeah.
but I've always like for heavy music, like Cannibal Corpse is a big inspiration for me. Like start writing like Coalesce, of course Jane's Addiction, Pink Floyd, Bad Brains. Like there is a slew of bands that I kind of go to when I start writing. I'm like, oh, I want to sound like Cannibal Corpse mixed with Jane's Addiction, or I'll try, but always ends up just as sound like Will Haven. I have this vision, but it doesn't really turn out that way. But it's a good starting. It's a good starting point, like.
It's almost like you can't pull it off, but you can pull it off just enough for yourself, like almost not even be happy with it, but like fuck it, that's good enough.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it just turns into Will Haven. That's all I really care about,
for sure.
But yeah, I always go in with thinking like, oh, I want this and this and this, and then so I'll listen to those bands and like kind of get excited and like try to think how I could like go with something in that genre or whatever. So
yeah.
I mean, I get influenced by music, so I have to listen to music to get in the mode and kind of go from there.
How extreme do you go with your music taste? Like, obviously, you're probably not hearing heavy all the time, and I hear a lot of artists that talk about, they're like, I don't listen to anything that sounds like my band, like, and that's kind of crazy to me, but it does make sense because it's kind of when you're with the people that you're around, it's like that's the mood for that. It's like that's what fits for that. But when I'm at home and I'm, like I want to hear something way different because I'm hearing that shit all the time.
I feel kind of shitty because I felt like I've kind of fallen off a little bit as far as like music. I think there was a point in around 2002 or 3 where I was like, music isn't just like. Doesn't move me like it did back in the 90s, like back in the 90s it was like hit the candy store, like
sure.
It was everything from like my favorite bands like Faith No More and Bungle and Jane, like everybody. It's like I couldn't get enough of music, and then 2003 came around and metal kind of changed a little bit, and like even pop music had changed, and like there weren't really any alternative bands that were cool anymore, and I just kind of put a sour taste in my mouth. So I've been weaning off a little bit. I mean, I still go back and listen to stuff, but I'm not like every day listening to music like I used to, I kind of got caught up in the whole podcast world, listening to podcasts and like, listen to Rogan and all that shit,
Yeah.
So that's kind of like takes a lot of my time. But my girlfriend who just moved in with me, last year, she plays music constantly in the house, but so it's got me back into like listening to music every day, and she's really good about it. She'll wake up in the morning and she'll have music on all day, in every genre. I mean, me and her have a similar taste in music, so
respect.
So it's been nice to have music in the house again. It kind of got me back into it, but for a long time I was kind of cold to it for a little bit, like. I still go back and listen to my 90s bands, but as far as like newer stuff, I couldn't do it.
And I get that, dude. I get that too. Like, I'm finding new bands that I do like a lot. And, I get that because, I think things get so oversaturated now, and it started back in the early mid 2000s, like I was well aware of all that stuff, and that's why I like a lot of different music. It's not just heavy. It's, I love reggae. I love, country. I love jazz, because it all lends itself to the same point.
Mm-hmm.
But I also now, like, because of the internet and streaming and stuff, it gets harder to like even just an album, and that to me, that sounds blasphemous to say too, but that's kind of where we are nowadays, Yeah.
To me, it's like the creativity is
right.
kind of lost. It's like, when music was insanely creative, like there was nothing like it. I felt like the creativity is kind of just weaned off, but I mean, I have found some bands recently that I totally love, just randomly I found a band called Urban Heat. They're from Austin, Texas.
Okay.
They're like, kind of tech. I don't even know what they are. I mean, they remind me of like a cool Depeche Mode. They're really kind of kind of 80s synth,
Yeah.
with electronic beats. I love those guys. I think the singer's amazing.
Yeah.
I just randomly saw him at a show and I'm like, oh wow. So
yeah.
So I still find bands that I'm like, I get turned on to and I become a fan of, and like I keep an eye on them, see where they're touring, go see them at shows and stuff. So, but it's been far and few between for sure.
Yeah, I found some bands. I've interviewed a couple dudes from Long Island, New York, and there's shit blowing up out there, big time, man. Like good, heavy rock, like kind of the same as like Sacto. Like there's a lot going on. And 3 bands in particular that I really love. One called Moontooth, one called Johnny Booth, and this band called Cryptodera. And all 3 of them same, like Deftones, Will Haven, and Far. Like they have their own attributes that contribute to there's just some shit going on out there. And I love that too.
It's always been that way out there. Like I think one of the things that really hurt Will Haven is that we were from the West Coast.
Right.
I think we do have an East Coast sound. We draw a lot of our influences from the East Coast.
Sure.
Like when we started our band, like our biggest influences were like Bloodlet, Snapcase, Coalesce, Quicksand. Like those were our influences, and those are all East Coast bands.
Yeah.
So, I think we would have been bigger on the East Coast. The West Coast just wasn't popping.
But somebody had to do it. Somebody had to fucking do it.
And we played with I remember back in the day we actually all the shows we played in LA were all with like Snapcase, Earth Crisis, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We would play with Strife every once in a while, but then we would play with Avenged Sevenfold, and like, which was cool. Those guys were rad, but like their fans did not understand anything about it. So it's like, and they were like the bigger West Coast band at the time.
Yeah.
So I always thought, it's like, we're on the wrong coast. If I could just play with if we could play with Coalesce and Converge and those guys, I think we would do a lot better.
Well, I think it's the audience out here. The West Coast just has this, I don't know, man. And like even here in San Diego, I've always said there's just no scenes. There's no real scenes. People don't take it to heart like that here, and that's been ever since I was in bands in high school. It was just like you have to create your own shit, but even then, it's like it never really sticks. It's.
Yeah,
it is what it is, and that's fine.
Yeah,
but fuck, it's like you just. I understand that it can be frustrating, and it's maybe
we had a good
if and or but, or whatever, whatever could have.
Yeah, been. I mean, luckily, we had a great scene in Sacramento though. That was a little different than LA or San Diego and stuff. It was kind of like more of a Seattle thing, which was cool. But when we ventured to LA or even San Diego, it was definitely like. I mean, we do okay there, but as far as like a population of that many people in LA, you think we'd have a bigger fan base, which is like kind of funny, but it's just
honestly, I think it's a pretentious thing. You know what I mean? Like people don't want to let loose. Like I've been to shows since, like I said, for 30 years. You know what I mean? It's like, that's why like I like you guys. I like who I like because I was like, no, this is the shit. And everybody's like, it's too heavy. It's too loud. It's like, oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. What is wrong with you? But that's kind of the West Coast mentality,
But I also love that, too. Like, I always love that Will Haven fans, either you don't either get it or like us or you're a diehard fan. Yeah. There is no in between, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
I love that. That's why I love our fans so much is they get it. Like, you understand the band. You know where we're coming from. You get the emotion. That means more to us than like just somebody like randomly like, oh, that band's cool. You know, like.
And how you guys doing now? What's the reception like now? I'm sure it's
okay. It's always been the same. Like we're at this point where I always say we're like the biggest, smallest band in the world. Like
okay.
Like everybody knows our name, but they don't come to our shows. It's hilarious. But at the same time, like we're still be able to play. We're still playing shows. Like when we go to Europe, we headline shows, and we do well over there.
Yeah.
But, like we still can play in front of people, and there's going to be people there. It won't be like 1,000 people, but it'll be people there, which is cool. And it's hit and miss. So I think at this point we just love playing music. We love playing with the guys in the band. We love each other. We love still hanging out. So. I mean, we're still going to do this for as long as we can. If we can't headline anymore, we'll just ask our friends if we can open for them.
There you go.
So
respect.
we're still going, but yeah, it's this band that's never been able to like kind of reach a certain level. We've kind of been stuck at this level forever, but it's cool though. You know, like it is what it is.
Do you do any like backing tracks when you guys are playing live? Is there like nothing?
No,
you don't do any of the ambient style. It's just always guitar stuff, or
we do samples. So our bass player Adrian has a sampler, but it just for music in between.
Okay.
The songs, because like, you know, you go to a show and the band gets done, everybody just dead quiet. So we need something to fill the gap. So we have stuff in between songs and stuff, but we have no backing tracks. We don't use a DAT live. Like we're straight punk rock, raw, plug in and and go. You know.
Yeah, I love that, and and that's a big debate now. Like, I read all the like Metal Injection and all that shit, and it's just to hear what people are just complaining about. It's just like. They're like, they're using backing tracks. But does it sound sick? Then shut the fuck up. Like, Jesus, just let, what I mean? Like, whatever the band needs to do. But then again, if I was in a band, I wouldn't want to deal with any of that headache. I'm like, no, that sounds like a little too much, dude. Like,
yeah,
it depends. It's all, it's all situational, I would say. But
it depends. Like, I've seen bands where they use it. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. But I've seen other bands use it. And like, this is awesome. Like. I know Avenged Sevenfold's doing that. Like some of their stuff, it sounds fucking killer. Like Crosses, what Sean did with Crosses. Oh my God. Like seeing them live is like, it's insane. It's like, So, I mean, it works for a lot of people. Sometimes it doesn't work. So it's all in the band, Yeah.
It's like you said, it's hit or miss, but as long as it sounds good, whatever you're listening to, whatever you're watching is, I think to me, that's the whole point, and practice.
I think it goes back to if you're using it in a creative way, then it's awesome. Yeah. But if you're just using it to make your guitar sound bigger, it's like
right, exactly.
Yeah, work on your tone.
That's exactly. Get 2 4x12. Actually, put cabs on stage.
Totally.
Play with an amp. Try that.
Yep.
Dude, because I saw Failure play here in San Diego maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, and they had no gear on stage. It was crazy. It was weird. But it sounded good, yeah.
Well, Ken's badass.
Ken's
like
a mastermind. I love Ken Andrews.
Yeah, he's one of my big inspirations for sure. And so I give him a pass on like because he's one of the most creative motherfuckers out there. So
it's a venue that couldn't really handle. Like I saw that band Moontooth here in October. And have you heard of the Callous Cowboys? You heard of those guys? They're pretty hardcore. They're sick. They're super sick. But they were so pissed that nobody was getting into it. So it's that kind of venue that's like on the outskirts of downtown. So it's like, it's not really a rock club, but it sounds good. They have a really good sound system. So the way Failure did, it's called
What's the club name?
It's called Music Box.
Oh, okay.
Like Will Haven could not play there. The place wouldn't be able to handle it. It's a sick venue and it could do a lot better, but I think the way they run it, that's just so like you can go in and hear the band and you could still kind of talk to somebody. Like it's not that loud. It's not, what I mean? But it sounds great. But I think Ken Andrews is probably the one that'd be like, oh, we don't need the amps. We're good. We'll just run it straight through the fucking processors. And it sounded great, But it's not that loud ass bombastic, like, sound, But Ken Andrews, I would never doubt anything that if he's just like, no, we're going to do it. Like, I'd be like, yes, sir. Yes, of course. He's the man. Totally. He's a tone master. And he's a tone master.
He's a badass.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into these songs you picked, man.
Sure.
So I always ask artists, anybody that I interview, give me 3 songs, like an evolutionary, these just 1, 2, 3 songs that influenced you from the get-go, midpoint, and then to now, whatever you're listening to, and just, whether it affects the way you play or your tone or ideas, just what I just want to hear. Like, I like to dig, I like to dig into people's minds and be like, oh, what the fuck what were you thinking? Like, I love that. Mm-hmm. So the first song you picked, which really I was just like, okay, like I get it. But at the same time, I was like, okay. Because I love this song too. I love Kool the Gang, but you picked Kool the Gang Celebration. So why?
I don't know. It was one of those things, where music just grabs you, right?
Sure.
Like I remember just riding on my mom's car. We had like a van back then, and I was just in the back of the van, and like that song came on, and I think what it did, it was the bass.
Okay.
You know, dun 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 dun, woo! And like, that bass like just moved me. I'm like, that's sick, dude. So I don't know. I think it was just like the bass part of it and the rhythm of it, and it just like it was like the song that made you feel happy. Yeah, you know. But it had an awesome groove to it. So I remember being a kid, just like getting excited when that song would come on, and it's like that song. That song to me felt louder than, like, bigger than life when it came on the radio.
Yeah, for sure.
You know? So that was like the first song that I was like, I always like just got super hyped when it came on.
All right, let's throw it down. Let's see what's up. If you don't know this song, then Jesus, I don't know where you've been in a monastery or under a rock.
Or a wedding.
I mean, Kool and the Gang is the shit, you know? Like, I love Ladies Night and... What's the other one? I can't think of it right now. It's a party jam. You know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Total party jam.
Yeah. But then they're like telling you, like, come on, let's celebrate. Let's have a good time.
Totally.
A celebration to last throughout the years. So bring your good times and your laughter.
How can you not like this song?
We gonna celebrate your
You have no soul if you don't like this song.
Let's all celebrate and have a good time. And have a good time. It's time to come together.
They're just great songwriters, man. Period.
Oh yeah.
Your pleasure. Everyone around the world, come on.
Yeah. So if you don't know who Kool and the Gang is, go do some homework. Yeah. All right. So next, and it's funny because I saw this band when this album came out at you know Soma? There used to be a
Yep.
I grew up at Soma. I don't know if I saw you guys there. I saw Far there, definitely. I saw Deftones play in like 96. I think right when Adrenaline came out. Or when they were pushing it. And they played the side stage. And fucking, it was just packed, like front to back. And that was the craziest show I'd ever been to in my life, still to this day. Because, like, me and my friends got there early, so we were all up front. And the way the side stage was set up was there was just like 3 steps, and then that's the stage. So there's no barrier, there's no nothing. So, like, as soon as they started playing, everybody just pushed. And we're like, oh, shit. Like, we were on the stage. And Chino was, like, jumping on, like, over my shoulder. And, like, just fucking, it was, and we were, like, we had to turn around and, like, push people back. You know, that show, like, just changed my life. I was like, oh, fuck. Like, this. And Chino still had his dreads. And, like, it was that time, you know. But that shit opened me up to so much more, you know. But then I saw Earth Crisis at about the same time, because I think Firestorm kind of came out at that same time. And my drummer, my friend Alec, he's like, bro, let's go to the show. I was like, I never heard these. He's like, let's go, trust me, you're gonna want to go. And I was like, all right, cool. And then that's when I saw more Rat gear. I was like, oh shit, like these dudes are fucking for real. And that shit was hard, dude. That was so hard, you know. And he knew about them, but he was like exposing me, you know, and I was like, all right, cool. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it was off Firestorm that. Yeah.
Taking it all back. The youth immersed in poison.
So how did you get into Earth Crisis? Did you play with them? Like,
yeah, we did actually.
Exactly.
I don't even know how I first heard them actually. But it just became like, I remember when I heard that song, I was like, oh my God, I was pissed. Cause, I mean, we were into the straight edge movement for sure.
Okay.
But, you know, the straight edge back then was like Youth of Today and like Pain of Strength and stuff like that. So when Earth Crisis came out, they were hardcore straight edge, but they were like metal. You know? So it was like the first metal straight edge stuff that I was like, oh my God, this is going hard.
Yeah.
And, but that became like a staple in our house for like, cause that's when I lived with Sean and Grady.
Nice.
And so that was like, this song became like our anthem of the house, you know? And it was kind of like right around the same time we were starting Sock. So it was like, it was like an inspiration for us and just got us like hyped about playing kind of like hardcore, but like more of the metal side to it.
Yeah.
And then we ended up getting a couple shows and like, actually, you know what? This crazy story. Our first show ever as Willhaven was with Earth Crisis.
Nice.
In Sacramento. Yeah, they were coming through their first time over on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And they played this place in the kind of a shady part of Sacramento. And our friend who booked them was friends of ours. Like, hey, we're Earth Crisis. Do you want to play with them? I'm like, hell yeah. So our first show ever as Willhaven was with opening for Earth Crisis. And, but we went on to play with them a bunch more times down in LA. And then we became friends with them.
Yeah.
I became friends with Scott and Carl and Bulldog and all those guys.
Yeah.
And then we just kept staying in touch. And every time they'd come to town, we'd play with them. And
nice.
Just really cool dudes, man. They were so nice, so down to earth, you know, and just so it was just one of those things where I love the band. It was like one of the first times I was like kind of starstruck because I was such a big Earth Crisis fan, and like, and then playing with them, and then actually getting to hang out with them, and like, I was like, so that was like a big point in my life where I was like, hardcore was like now metal, and like that's more my style. That was more my thing, you know, because I loved riffs, and like Scott was bringing the riffs, and like, this is what hardcore needs, you know. So
and I love Carl's voice, man. It's still like, I also do these mixes in between like interviews, and I'll do different genres, you know, like I'll do metal mix, I'll do a reggae mix, I'll do a country mix. And I found a new song. I forget what the album is called, but the song is called Fate of the Neo Gods, and Carl's voice just still hits, and I'm just like, fuck, so sick, dude. Like, I love his voice, and it reminds me, I don't remember what his name is, but the singer for Snapcase, same. It's like a very distinct, you know. And I got into them, you know. I think my favorite album is Progression, you know, like Progression Through Learning, and that just the snare in that album is just intense. That's what I'm saying. Like when I get into shit, I get scientist brain. I just pick everything apart, you know, and all the best things just last through all of it, you know. But yeah, that you know, that shit's crazy. That shit's heavy.
That genre, man, like that old Victory back in the 90s. Oh my God, with like Earth Crisis, Snapcase, Dead Guy, Bloodlet. I mean, that was my life, man. Like those bands were just like inspired. Like those are my big inspirations, you know, those bands for sure.
For sure.
So sick. And they were all different too, which was so rad.
Yeah, exactly. All right. And then the last one you picked Crosses, Shout, Invisible Hand. So I love Crosses for sure. I mean, obviously I'm a huge Chino fan and Sean fan, but I loved when I think they were just doing singles before even the first album came out. And I was just like, okay, like something new. And this is the latest album. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just came out a couple months ago.
Ready or not, we started again. The rules of you and change. Trip out of your heart, reach out of yourself. Coming closer, time you're moving well. Reverse the rules again. The way I see
I mean, to me, they can do no wrong. You know, like, and it's like Depeche Mode, and you know, all the best parts of that old style music, but they're making it fresh to me. That's my perspective, you know.
Yeah, I think what I loved about this record is that, like, I mean, I get emotional talking about it. Like, I'm so proud of Sean.
Fuck yeah.
Like, I mean, I love the early Crosses stuff for sure.
Yeah.
But when he showed me this stuff, I'm like,
yeah,
dude, like, you like just went to a whole nother level with your production, your songwriting, and like, you know, like, I'm a huge Sean Lopez fan. Like, he's one of my best friends in the world, and everything he's done is gold, you know. But to see him grow as a, you know, because like when we were kids, he was just writing riffs, you know. Like, I mean, great songwriter, but he was writing metal riffs. But now it's like, now he's doing full, like,
he's doing full production
stuff.
He's doing yeah.
I mean, he did everything on this Crosses record besides singing, you know. So for him to like go and produce something like this where he's still getting better, which is the scary part, you know, like he's just hitting the iceberg now. But so just to be like a proud friend of like, damn, dude, like, and I think that's me and him inspire each other. You know, he'll come to Will Haven shows, and I'll get down. He's like, man, that was so inspiring. I just want to go write music now. And so when I heard his stuff, I'm like, God damn, I want to write some. Now I almost feel like I'm behind, you know. Like, he and I have always had this like really super friendly competition, you know, like even when Will Haven was around and Far was around, like, like, okay, Far step, like Sean stepping it up. I got to do this. And like, so we've always been very competitive, but like in a loving way.
For sure.
So when I hear this, I'm like, oh man, what do I do now with Will Haven? Like, I can't, I got to make him proud, you know? So, and that's really important to me, is making my peers proud of me, you know, like, when we got done with El Diablo, the first person I took it to was Chino and Stefan, and said, all right, you know, here's a record. What do you guys think of it? You know? And so it's like, that was kind of my thing, is like, I don't care what the fan base is, as long as my homies are like happy with me or proud of me, then I'm good, you know?
Yeah.
So to see Sean like do this and write a record so awesome, it just like, it made me felt so good. And so I'm so proud of him. And like, and now that, and it came to a point too, like I was telling you before, like music is just kind of like, to me, is just kind of like, kind of stalled at the moment.
Yeah.
So when I heard this, I'm like, there's something fresh, there's something new, there's something beautiful and creative, and like just, and the whole record just, you know, it's a big tidal wave of emotions and stuff. So I'm super proud of Sean, and you know, Cord Chino's a god. You know, I mean, if I called Chino and told me was amazing on this record, I would do it 100th time I told him that on every record. So I mean, Chino's Chino, but like for me, I was more proud of Sean, just just coming out and killing it. So, so I try to like tell people how, as a close personal friend, how proud I am of him and the work he's done. He's just starting too, which is a scary thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, if the Crosses does something sooner than later, like it's going to be even more chaotic and more insane. So
yeah. I mean, they can only go up, you know.
yeah. I mean, they're just going to get better musicians, you know.
Yeah, it's sick.
I mean, at least Sean's still learning, so like he's just going to get better and better.
Yeah, fuck yeah, that's so awesome. All right, let's get to the Will Haven, please. So the first song you gave me, what is it? Urban Agogi?
Urban Agogi, yeah.
Agogi. Okay. Yeah. What does that mean?
Great question. I think it's something to do with some tactical military thing.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. Yeah. And this is off Voir Dire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I speak English well, but you know, the other languages fuck me up.
I know. Yeah.
All right.
That is not my doing.
That's all good. Nice. There's that ambiance.
Ja.
Accepteert geen berichten. Dank u voor uw oproep. Tot ziens. Deze voicemail.
And so all these sounds, this is you? You find these
samples that I've found over the years.
Yeah.
So why this song?
It's just I love this record. I think it was like we had just come back. You know, after the Hierophant, we'd taken a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
And then Grady came back to the band.
Yeah.
So we were kind of starting fresh again.
Okay.
And this was like the first song I think I wrote for this record.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, you know what? This is cool. I'm onto something kind of new and different than our older stuff.
Yeah.
And that's Chris Vane, who used to be in Slipknot.
Yeah.
Played bass on this record.
Oh shit.
And so he came to live with me for a little while we wrote this record together, and I kind of bounced ideas off him, and it was just a really good time in my life, you know. Like I love having Chris with me, and I love like the direction we were going, and I love having like Grady was back, you know, in the band, and so it was like one of those things where I just felt kind of a new start, because I think after Vor Dire, like we've kind of been a newer band since like Carpe Diem and El Diablo. It's kind of like our the second chapter of our career, you know.
No, totally.
And this is a song that kind of kicked it off for me, you know. So, and it's a song a lot of people don't hear, you know. Yeah. So I was kind of picking a song that was kind of obscure off the record that kind of meant a lot to me.
For sure. Yeah, and it's crazy because I knew, well, I didn't know Jeff Jaworski, but I remember that whole period, that whole time, and he played in a band called Red Tape with a friend of mine that was the drummer. His name is Tim Davis.
Oh, Tim Davis, yeah. Tim's awesome. I love Tim.
Respect. Shout to Tim. But yeah, we grew up playing in bands down here in San Diego and Chula Vista. And so like, you know, it was crazy once I heard that. And then once I saw Jeff was in Willhaven, I was like, okay, that's interesting. Like, oh, wow, okay. But, you know, and it was what it was, you know. And so once Grady came back, then I was like, okay, this, you know, like not to disrespect anything previous, but like you're saying, it was kind of, that was the pinpoint of where what's happening still now is, and I could hear it, you know, I can hear it. Like,
yeah. It's kind of our new, we actually added, seems like a newer influence to our music with Vor Dire for sure.
Yeah. Respect. Okay. So the next one you picked was No Escape. Let's go. This is off Muerte. So like we said earlier, Mike from Yob is on this one. And I remember when I first heard it, and like I said, I'm not a big Yob fan. I kind of had heard of them at that point. And then I heard this song and I was like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Like he's so like operatic in a way, you know, and it just lent itself well to the song, you know. So that's cool. That's super cool. And I was just like, oh shit, Willhaven's evolving, I would say, even now, even recently, you know.
I've always wanted, like, I wanted to hear our songs with a singer, you know, with melody. And so I mean, forever. I've tried to have Chino sing on our stuff.
Okay.
You know, he's always said, "Oh, I'll do it," and then it doesn't work. So then I got to start like thinking of other people, you know, like who I can get in there. And so when that part came up, I was like, oh, I got to call Mike because Mike would be perfect on this part. So for me, it was a special moment. Because it was Mike, and I'm a big Mike fan. Mike's a rad human dude, you know, and like, so having him hearing like us actual like vocals on our stuff was like something really cool because I've never had that. You know, growing up with foreign Deftones guys, like, you know, they have amazing singers in their band, so it's cool to like kind of throw that in my band. For
You're like, I want that too. Yeah, respect.
But I like the diversity of like having Grady and then having. I mean, I'm a big Neurosis fan, and like you know, when you have Scott and then Steve singing, they're screaming, but they're two different voices, you know, and I love that. You know, you can tell when Steve's singing, you can tell when Scott sings, so or when Dave sings. So I love that. So having that versatile in the music was really important to me. So that song meant a lot. That was like the first time somebody really sang on a record. So
even like Mastodon kind of has that similar dynamic, you know, and like I know they're big Neurosis fans, obviously, you know, and they have Scott singing their shit, but same. That's respect. All right, and then the last one you picked was Paloma's Blessing off 7. Dude, this album, good job.
Thanks.
To say the least. Is that Grady right there?
That's me.
Oh, nice. So you had to fill in that part that you wanted to hear in your own song. Respect. So how does Grady feel right now with the way things are as far as this album? Because I feel like he's just peaking right now, like, you know, but he sounds great, you know what I mean? Like,
it's been an up and down battle with him for a long time, you know, like when he left the band, he was kind of over being in a band, and then he came back, but he was still having some like, you know, external issues going on in his life where he just couldn't commit to the band full time, and you know, and he was kind of doing his part, you know, and then after COVID, you know, we kind of reconvened, and we weren't sure we were trying to finish the record, but we weren't sure what was going to happen with it. And then we just kind of had this thing, I think, with a lot of people after COVID, you have this realization that, you know, we're getting older, things aren't going to last very long.
Right.
You know, we almost had everything taken away from us, you know, as far as the music industry. Yeah. So, and then, you know, Grady is now in a very healthy relationship. And she's very supportive of Will Haven, loves Will Haven, and wants him to be in Will Haven. So, and I think that's kind of the key that he needed to really be inspired and be excited about the band again. You know, because he never really had that in his kind of family life. Everybody was kind of like, you don't need to be in a band, just get out of that thing, you know? Yeah. So for him to have like a new look on the band, and, you know, all of us have been friends for over 35 years. I know Grady since in 5th grade. So, you know, there is no weirdness in the band. We're family. So I think now he's very inspired, very excited. I think it started showing as this record started progressing, and Pluma's Blessing was kind of like one of those ones where you just like, you know, he was taking it really serious and wanted to try to give a great performance. And now he's like full on, like, let's tour, let's do this.
Okay.
You know, now he's full on into it. So now we're in a really good spot, and I'm excited to work on some newer songs and see, because he's really excited and he really wants to give his best performance and kill it. So yeah, he's kind of in a really good place now. And you're right, he's kind of peaking, you know, but it just comes, you know, with Grady, if he's excited about something, it'll come out of him, you know, but if he's not excited, he'll be a little more reserved. But when he's excited, you'll hear the Grady that we've all come to love, you know, because El Diablo, he was excited. He was ready to go, you know, and that's why he's so ferocious on that record. Yeah. And so now he's kind of back to that point where he's just excited again. So, you know, singers are fickle people, you know, of course. They're the hardest people in the band to deal with, but they're kind of the most important, you know, like how they go is kind of how the band goes. So
that's why I play guitar and sing, so I can be kind of both.
Yep.
I'm right in the middle.
I actually started a band like that like years ago when we're like, you know what, I don't know about this wave and stuff. So me and a couple friends, I started band. I sang and play guitar. And we played like 2 shows. Yeah. I'm like, this I can't. This is too hard. So.
It is hard.
But
it is hard.
It's
great. People don't know how hard it really is. And like when I see people that can do it so effortlessly, I'm like, fuck that shit.
But
respect.
I'm too critical of myself, man. I'm like, I don't think this is good enough. You know.
All right, so I'm gonna play, just like I said, the first song that I heard where you were doing that single note, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna play Miguel just so people can get a taste. And this is the shit that still, like I said, it haunts me, and I'm like, I still do it. I love it. I love it. So respect to you on this. But here's Miguel. Nothing gets much better than that for me. Like you fucking hit the heart chakra like hard with that shit, bro. And like, even as a guitarist, as someone that's into production and stuff, even the way the notes just kind of like, you just hit them right, and it's got like a scoop to it, and it drops, and it's like, oh fuck, it's so clean. Like, how many guitars did you layer on that? Is it just
I'd say like 3?
Okay, 3.
Not 3, probably 3. Yeah.
Pan, middle, kind of, basically.
Yeah.
Dude, that shit is ugh. Like, that's literally one of my all-time favorite just riff songs, like all time, dude. Anytime I put that on, I just fucking blast it. I was like, oh, attitude, just let's go. Yeah. Oh, I love that shit, dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate your time. Like I said, you've influenced me a lot, man, like in big ways, and I appreciate you, man. I really do.
Oh, man.
tell people what's going on, where they can find you, whatever, anything you want to put out there.
Yeah, see, Will Haven. We got some shows coming up on the East Coast. You can find all our information on Instagram, Will Haven Band. We have, of course, Facebook, Will Haven. We're on Twitter, Will Haven Band. We just have a couple shows coming up. We're going to start working on new music here coming up soon. Our project we did with Sean Lopez back in 1995, Sock, is now on Spotify. We have one single. We'll have the full record out in May. Who knows? We might do some shows. It might be kind of fun.
Okay.
But yeah, we're just chilling.
What's the Sock IG?
Oh, Sock. So Sock Instagram is Sock Mob 916. So SOCKMOB 916.
Respect. Well, thank you, man. Much love and respect to you. I appreciate you.
Thank you, man.
For sure, respect. To anyone out there listening, to anyone giving me your attention, thank you. Until next time, this is Blue Speak, and I wish you all much love and peace. Peace.